Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspiring Hope, the show that shines a light on those who are making a difference in our world. I'm your host, Lois Hermann, and today we're in for an enlightening conversation with a truly remarkable woman whose journey bridges the worlds of science and spirit. Dr. Petra Frese, am I saying it right? Is a
You are
brain
saying it right.
is a brain health expert, award-winning author, and a spiritual healer whose life was forever changed after surviving multiple near-death experiences. With a background as a scientist, engineer, and even a firefighter, Petra brings a rare depth of insight into the human experience, grounded in neuroscience and elevated by divine wisdom. Petra, I'm honored to welcome you to Inspiring Hope. And let's begin today by exploring your incredible journey that led you to do the work you do today. Your background in science and engineering is impressive, but when your life took a dramatic turn, can you share how your near-death experiences shaped your worldview and led you to this path of spiritual healing?
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah, my life was turned upside down, and I'm not over exaggerating when I say that. As a scientist, and this was my whole world, right? Now I know it was a narrow world, but this was my entire world. And having that experience, not knowing that this even existed, I had no clue. And the internet was not available at that time, so it was really hard to get information about that. And I pushed it away. I told myself stories that my brain had made this up, that I was going crazy, that this was all imaginary. But with that part, I couldn't go far because I knew it was not imaginary. It was too vivid. And it left such a deep imprint that I couldn't manage both worlds, and I didn't know how to bring them together. And I didn't speak about it, and it was really like being in my own prison. And I didn't speak about it out of fear, right? I didn't know what people would say or how they would react, so I kept it shut. And it went to the point that my husband said something has to change. I cannot continue living with you like that. What's going on with you? You are not the woman I married once. And this was for me the point where I thought, okay, I don't have anything more to lose than my family, and I didn't want that. So I gathered my strength and I made him promise something. I mean, you have to remember that was 30 years back.
Yeah.
And I asked him to promise me that he would not put me in a facility. This is how big my fear was.
Sure.
And,
Absolutely.
and he promised me that he would do the necessary steps, but he would not just first thing put me in a facility. So then we started talking, and I explained to him what I had experienced, and his reaction was completely different than I had expected. As a young, scared woman, I had expected him, he is a scientist too, to react scientifically. But no, he said, okay, if this is what you've been through, then we have to deal with it together. But at least now I know what happened to you. And this changed everything. This opened the door for me to find books about it, to read about it, to learn that I'm not the only one that went quote unquote crazy, but that this is really a thing to have a near-death experience. And I started to process things. I started to process what I had experienced, not being constantly in doubt, but it gave me permission to process what I had experienced. And one day, I vividly remember that day, I had a conversation with myself, and I was so done with limiting myself. It has to be scientifically proven, it has to be explained, it has to be able to be predicted. And I said to myself silently, but still it was a conversation, right? I said to myself, okay, you have two hemispheres and you have a bridge, the corpus callosum. You most certainly have them for a reason. So stop limiting yourself to be focused only on one hemisphere, one half of your brain. And
Absolutely true.
this is when everything changed. So I started using or acknowledging that I have two hemispheres, and I started using both the scientifically oriented one and the emotional one. We now know it's not as distinct as we thought in the past, and using the bridge to combine both. And this is actually where it really started for me to combine scientific knowledge and also the spiritual experiences.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I worked for 10 years corporate with engineers. I was the designer on the design team as the clinical subject matter expert on the design team. And we would do these brain tests, and the engineers were always very left-brained, right? And because of my background in ultrasound, those of us that were the clinical people, it was more than just me. There were maybe 5 of us. Those tests always came back centered. And they're like, why are you guys centered? And it dawned on me, it was because in the work we did, we were dealing with people's bodies, people's emotions. When you're doing ultrasound on a person, they've got naked bodies. We're dealing with bare skin. They're scared. So my right hand is touching and soothing and calming, and I'm using a transducer that is painting images, and my left hand is designing, creating, using my science part of my mind to create the image using sound technology. So it's my brain is going to, biology, anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, and compassion and awareness. So it was very interesting how the engineers were always like, why are your tests always right in the center? Because we're using our full brain. And I really wonder, I love how you said that, because to me, that's also part of that spiritual mind makes use of the analytical and the metaphysical. I love how you put that. It's that bridge between the science and the wise mind and the science mind. There, when we get all cylinders firing together, then we can elevate to a greater awareness.
Absolutely. And thanks that you mentioned that my brain test came back 51 to 49. So I think this is centered, right?
It is.
And I would bet that in my younger years, this wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is. And I think this is, I don't want to say a requirement, but I also want to say it might be a requirement that we can see things holistically.
Mm-hmm.
That we can combine what you just explained. That's so wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. Being empathetic, doing things to calming and showing emotions, and also processing analytical data.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating. So
yeah,
it's interesting when we meet people that have that ability, we can get into some really deep conversations, can't we?
Right.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. And I honor that your husband was there for you, because what you were experiencing is very real. The fear of rejection, public rejection, should we say anything that is not in the mainstream narrative, we would be labeled as weird, odd, whatever. And now I tend to just accept that that's just who I am. But years ago, 30 years ago, it's scary to stand into your power, recognizing it's not the normal situation that you've experienced.
Right. And it's against one of the basic human needs, right? It's against that need, it's a need to belong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. Good for your husband that he was there. My little familiar, she's like, okay, you're talking to me. Must be I have to be here to help hold the energy. So So he was there for you. And like many of us who are more metaphysical minded, we have these grounded partners who don't quite get it, but they're there for us. And it's such a treasure. It truly is a treasure that they honor us.
Yes, it's very, very valuable. And I think this is a high value in our relationship that we respect each other. And maybe it came down to that respect, right? He didn't reject me, he didn't blame me for anything. He tried, and I say try on purpose because we didn't know how to figure that out. We both tried to figure it out and make sense and be together in this journey called life with those different experiences, right? And I felt like a failure because I was fully aware that he had married a scientist and engineer. And now suddenly there was a different thing in our marriage.
Now there
And
were angels, right? Because you communicate with the angels.
yes, and how could I tell him about that?
Mhm.
And I had been communicating with the angels for many years as a child until my parents told me not to do that. And I had stopped communicating with the angels. But after my first near-death experience, they showed up.
Mhm.
This was that constant knock, knock, we are here, knock, knock. And I could not communicate with them because I felt so lonely. I mean, created through my own fear. And I felt so lonely that the angels been the only ones that I shared what I had experienced. And I didn't need to share, of course they knew, but we could talk about that. And this was the thing that kind of helped me to get through that point. We had a little daughter, right? And I wanted to raise my daughter, and of course I wanted to make it right, whatever that means, but I wanted to do the things right. I wanted to be a good mother. I wanted to be a good wife. And after that confession, it made it so much easier for me that I could talk with my husband about, can we do this? Can I share with her? What do you think about that? Or when he had things that I couldn't agree with, I could tell him that's not what I want her
Mhm.
to learn about. That's not what I have experienced. In my world, it's different. And I think this is part of what we hopefully see in the next generation and generations, that they grow up with a very different perspective on life from early on.
Absolutely. Because many of us had those experiences. I remember talking to the fairies in the woods. I wouldn't dare tell anybody about it because they would think that I was crazy, but I could have these amazing conversations with the fairies and with the angels, but you didn't dare say anything. And now when I see these people raising their children with the ability to express, because the children are unfiltered. They have that true knowing. We can learn so much from them. Should we allow them to express what they remember?
Yeah.
Because when we come into this life, we come in through this veil of forgetfulness, but there's little glimmers. And then ultimately, over time, it keeps getting shut down, shut down. And it seems like we go through a period of time where we don't remember until then we do. And then it starts to come back. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And if it takes the courage to be able to share what we know without being ostracized. And
Yeah.
yet there are people who get it and they're like, I can talk to you about this, because many people are too afraid to share
Yeah.
but their true self.
I absolutely agree. And that you bring up the fairies, this is something I didn't have experiences with the fairies for a long time.
Yeah.
So as a scientist, right, I did doubt that they even existed. How not smart that is, because I know angels exist. in my world. And then I had an accident just a few years ago, and I was bleeding really badly. And my husband, it was on a Sunday, we both been home, and he decided we needed to go to the hospital. And I didn't want to. I thought this would calm down. I'm a hypnotist. I can hypnotize myself and stop the bleeding, but didn't really work that way at that time. So he decided we have to go to the hospital now, to the ER. And with that decision made, from that split second onwards, I was surrounded by many, many, many fairies.
Really?
The first time I was surprised and not surprised at the same time. It was kind of, oh, here you are. Okay, so it must be serious if you show up now. So it's probably a good thing to go to the hospital at this point. And we did. And they accompanied me walking to the car. I could walk. Going into the car, they drove with us in the car. Again, I didn't dare to ask my husband whether he would be aware of the fairies. And in the moment when I was taken over by the nurse in the ER, they disappeared. Kind of, okay, so now she's at the right place. And this was very, very impactful experience for me.
Wow, that's what an amazing story. Yeah. I've encountered fairies in some of my client sessions, and at one point we encountered what they call themselves sprites. They were with the flowers. The story behind it is that they were excavating the land and they were trying to get the person's attention because they were going to destroy their homeland, their camp. Anyway, I said, "Oh, you're fairies." And they're like, "No, no, we are sprites. We're not fairies. We're with the flowers. Fairies have magic." And so I found that to be very powerful. The sprites considered, no, we're just with the flowers, but the fairies are magical. So those fairies were there to help hold you. They brought the magic until you were placed in the hands of caregivers that could potentially help you.
Yep.
Right? That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I'm still in awe and grateful and think this is really fascinating. And I mean, at that time, I felt that they can help me. Of course, now I know better. With hindsight, we are always smarter.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it was beautiful. And it calmed me so much down in that situation, being really concerned about that intense bleeding and my husband being nervous. And yeah, who wants to go on a Sunday afternoon to the ER? Nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
It happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
knowing
that brought you into another near-death type of a situation, didn't it?
it was not a near-death experience, but it was a pretty intense experience that time. It became so severe that I couldn't even talk. I couldn't really swallow. I could breathe. So this was luckily not the issue or not the conversation whether I had to be put on a ventilator, but all the other physical activities I couldn't do on my own. And this was extremely painful. I had so much nerve pain and it was excruciating. And it was scary because it got worse every day, sometimes almost every hour. And since we don't know what comes next, right,
Right.
we get scared. And this was going on for months.
Ah,
And also the prognoses have not been positive at all. So with my neurologist, she is a kind person. I feel her heart. She didn't want to be negative or mean, but her suggestion talking about hypnosis was, you will never be able to walk again.
mm,
You better become accustomed to the wheelchair and make friends with the situation. And she was well-meaning. She wanted to make it easier on me and not fight against that. And I refused to accept that. and we continued doing conventional therapy, and nothing really helped. Some therapies made it even worse, and I had a very good PT, and she honestly admitted, I don't know what to do with you anymore. The only thing you kind of positively respond is fascia maneuvers, fascia release. So we went out on our own to find fascia treatment, and it coincidentally, quote unquote, right? In my world, coincidence doesn't exist. It's divinely guided. It happened that I learned about a class that had open one spot. I wanted to take this class, or had been wanting to take that class for a couple of years, and it never worked out. But then on a Sunday evening, they reached out and said, Petra, we realized that you wanted to be in our class for a long time, and now we are coming close to you in your area, right?
Beautiful. Wow.
And do you want that spot? And the class started on Tuesday. And I'm not being mobile, didn't know. And then we decided, okay, let's take that risk and get me to that place that's close to me. And I mean, I'm laughing, right? Because we live in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and what they thought is close to me was Miami.
Okay.
So I flew out on Monday to Miami. I was dependent on wheelchair service on the airport, and I got there and took the class. And as I came back from that 1 week class in Miami, I walked with a cane on my own, and that was the miracle, right? And it gave me hope. It gave me, or re-nurtured the hope that healing is possible. I mean, I've known that for so many years, and it's different if you work on healing with your clients. You are the one spreading the hope and helping someone else to not give up hope. Or if you work on your own and are dependent on your own seed of hope, that tiny little sparkle, right? And that class really gave me hope. And then I did more spiritual things, energy healing, another class, myofascial release, and it's called fascia maneuvers. And here I am, right? Last year, I still needed a cane to get around, and I needed a seat to give my presentation. And this year, I might a little be, yeah, maybe too much, but I'm really hoping, and I'm focusing on giving my presentation standing again.
Wonderful. Yeah, and you mentioned hope. Well, there are people who talk about, well, hopium. Hopium is not good. It's not a great thing. Hope is the bridge. It's like the bridge between the left and the right brain is the corpus callosum, but hope is the bridge from despair to joy. You can't go from kindergarten to grad school without going through steps. To me, hope is that step, is that bridge. You've got to be able to use hope as that stepping stone to the next level. Wow, what a powerful story. Yeah.
I agree. Without hope, we don't have any motivation. We don't have any reason to continue working towards
Right.
whatever we want to achieve, right? Yeah, agree.
Wow.
So to our listeners, whatever you are experiencing, whatever you are going through, maybe this can inspire you and light that sparkle in you and make your hope bigger and stronger and really being the driving force.
And pay attention to your inner intuitive wisdom, because something in you was driving you, causing you to want to take this course. And all of a sudden, serendipitously, coincidentally, miraculously, it opened for you. You're right, people from other countries. Oh, it's somewhere in America. Yeah, the difference between Pennsylvania and Florida. What is it's America, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
you.
And I'm grateful. And I'm not saying it is easy, right? And I'm not saying it was not full of pain and inner fight, inner struggles and outer struggles too. because the people around us, when we go through challenging phases, they go through this with us, right?
Absolutely.
We change, the energy changes, the frequency changes. So it involves more than, quote unquote, just that one person. It's more.
Mhm.
And there's a ripple effect.
It does. And, I'm thinking of, I have attended your courses before, and you talk about earth angels and being connected with the frequency of earth. Well, that's what the fairies are.
Yeah.
They're the earth angels. So they knew that you had that in your heart. So to me, they were there as a reminder that you have the answers within you and surrounding you by these beautiful high frequency energies that we don't necessarily see every day, but they're really there.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And the reminder to listen to your inner wisdom, right? We know, and how often do we hear stories that people know that there's something wrong or something not how it should be inside of them? And how often are they not taking serious? And the other way around also, sometimes people know, oh, I can heal from that.
Hmm?
That's possible. And the outside world or statistics don't prove that, but the person is not the statistics, right?
And that's the challenge with well-meaning medical professionals. Both, I come from 40 years in medicine myself, in the science kind of arena in diagnostics and ultrasound. And there were many doctors who didn't have an answer. And their only answer is, well, to give up hope. Just to get, like the doctor said to you, she didn't have any statistics. A lot of times they're going based on statistics. Statistically, you won't get out of the wheelchair, but the energetic, spiritual, metaphysical you said, like, heck, I won't. And the fairies were there like, we got this. And
Right?
so, yeah, you were an exception. Many people just take that as word of God, the doctor God, that says you'll never get out of the wheelchair. And so, therefore, they acquiesce. But it takes those of us that have that right brain, left brain, that determination to say, wait a second, that's not me. I will find a way. And you did. That's powerful.
Right. And to decide which God to follow, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to whom to listen to.
Right.
That's so important, I think. Who is your guide in that situation? Is it the medical statistics or is it your inner knowing?
Right.
And the inner knowing usually is much more quiet, right? To listen to that voice, we need to be quiet, we need to calm down. And when we are in fear, it's so difficult
Mm-hmm.
to even hear that voice and then to listen to it, to take this as the guidance, or to find a guide, an inspiration, someone who went through what we are going through right now and use them as an example. What are we focusing on, right? And frequency. What is frequency? In which frequency do we want to tune in? And frequency is what we frequently see, right? Frequency.
I love
So
that.
that's what's helped me through that. What do I want to see frequently? Do I want to see the miracles that people created, that people got well against all odds? Or do I want to frequently see the statistics and remain where I am or even get worse? So we are in charge to to maintain and elevate our frequency, to decide what we frequently see.
So we're all different. We're all different. The challenge is to get out of blame, to get out of it's all about them. So I loved how you said it. She was well-meaning. She had a good heart, and she says to you, you just get comfortable with the wheelchair. And instead of blaming, shaming, or fighting her, you just declared yourself a sovereign, beautiful healing being, and you rose above that without. So many people get into that low vibrational level of blame, shame, and therefore they're stuck at that low level and they can't heal themselves because their vibration is so low. So even though you went through quite the horrific experience, your wise mind and your fairies and your angels helped you to shift into a higher level of vibrational frequency to see the way out of there. If you are vibrating low, the only thing, and you and I both know as hypnotists, when you're depressed, you're looking down, you're low, you're slowed down, your vision is all localized.
Yeah.
When you can lift your vibrational frequency up, you can see beyond, you can see the potential, you can then grasp for opportunities that present themselves that you don't see if you're all just compressed. So that's your story. That's beautiful.
I agree.
Magical.
And I've been there, right? I've been in the blame state.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I was super angry and I was super mad and sad. And I was in that state. Don't get me wrong. It was not just I left the office and was in the,
Yeah.
yeah, in the elevated and wise state. No, I went through, yeah, different phases, I have to
Different
admit.
levels of grief, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was a grief because
yeah.
you were a dynamic. I went hiking with you to the St. Louis, you were a dynamo, and to be completely paralyzed like that had to be terrifying.
It was. I mean, I was a firefighter. I was physically really fit
Yeah.
considering my age.
Mhm.
And then suddenly there was nothing left. I couldn't even open a water bottle as I regained strength. Strength meant being able to sit up. I, I couldn't open a water bottle and feeling that being a burden on someone else. And I felt ashamed because in a split second, out of a sudden, my husband's world had changed. He had to do everything on top of what he already did.
And this was
And
simply a cut in the kitchen. You basically got you got a pierced a cut in the kitchen. So
I had
something that anybody could do at any time. This was nothing that you weren't like out rock climbing and fell off of a cliff. It was something so simple that we could all experience.
yeah. I mean, it was a stupid thing. Some accidents are just
Yeah.
stupid. I had the classical avocado accident, right? I have the tool to take the pit out of of an avocado in the kitchen drawer, but that tool doesn't help if you don't use it. So I did
So
it with a knife.
yeah.
I slipped away from the pit and stepped through my hand. And when I say through, I really mean through.
Yeah.
And I was lucky in this regard, right? The hand surgeon, I had to see a hand surgeon after the accident. So the hand surgeon said, I think you don't even need surgery and I can move my fingers. I have feelings in most of my fingers. So I'm lucky in this regard, but I learned a tough lesson.
So the risk, you just have to weigh the risk.
Yeah, and it was working with fear again, right? Creating fear in people and using the power position. And I understand that they are under pressure, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming anyone here. But being an ER doctor is full of pressure. They
Absolutely.
run from one patient to the other and need to get this thing solved quickly.
Mhm.
So she didn't want to argue with me. She didn't have the time. But yeah.
Well, I think that I will argue if it ever presents itself. I'm like, heck
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And I learned that too, right?
Yeah.
To stand up for what you know is right.
You were in trauma, you were in shock already.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we have to pay attention to our inner knowing,
yeah,
even in situations like that. Wow.
correct. And to use for the healing process, to use again both hemispheres, right?
Mhm.
The analytical knowing, cells regrow, cells divide, cells develop. This is what we can control to a certain extent with our mindset. This
Mm-hmm.
is what we do, and inviting the miracles, the magical beings to support us, to help us, to guide us on our healing journey.
Absolutely. Yes.
This is how we create miracles.
Mm-hmm. And being appreciative of those miracles, small and large, they're all around us.
Yeah, yeah. To be able and willing to recognize them, right? To see them, to know they are there, to look out for them, and to be appreciative, exactly as you said.
So, what would you recommend to everybody if they were to go through a similar situation, looking back and looking forward? What would you recommend to our audience?
I'm thinking because I want to put it in just a few sentences, right?
Sure. Take your time.
The main message is trust your soul,
Mm-hmm.
trust yourself, listen to your soul, trust your soul. Become calm as good as possible, because the calmer we are, the easier it is to hear that inner voice
Mm-hmm.
and listen to that inner voice. Trust your knowing
Mm-hmm.
and follow that. And this is not always easy. We know that, right? Knowing something and following through are two different things, like two different hemispheres.
That's right.
And bridging that, right? Bridging your inner knowing and bringing them in alignment with your actions. So the other way around, bring your actions in alignment with your inner knowing. That's my recommendation. Trust your soul.
Thank you, Dr. Petra Frese. So, we'll put on the YouTube and Rumble and website how to get a hold of you. I encourage, if any of you are interested in the hypnosis, the National Guild of Hypnotists Conference next month in August 8th, 9th, 10th, I think it is, in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Come visit, come to our courses.
Yeah, come join us.
It's nice to be around others of like mind. And Petra and I have been with the Guild long enough to watch it go from a very spiritual organization to a non-spiritual organization. And now they're transforming and they're welcoming the spirituality back. And we're both very excited about it, aren't we?
Very excited. And thank you for having me.
We'll see you next in a couple of weeks. And we'll get a real, right now it's a virtual hug. And we'll have a real hug in a few weeks. So I love to end with everyone, please. Until next time, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless.